Hey guys, and welcome into another Late Night Thoughts. So today we're going to be talking about the state of entertainment and namely the backlash that it is receiving on all fronts at the moment. And you might be thinking, what exactly, how are we going to look at that? Well, we're going to measure that by the dislike ratio that is occurring with many of these major properties on YouTube. And you might also be asking, how do we know what the dislike numbers is? Because they removed that a while ago. Well, for those who don't know, if you have a Google Chrome, if you can download an extension on Google Chrome that allows you to see the dislike buttons number for everything on YouTube, so you can there clearly see what the like to dislike ratio is for anything that's out there now, just like it used to be. And so we're going to talk about these major properties that have released trailers in recent times, but not only that, we're going to compare them to very similar entries from those same franchises that came out not that long ago, just to show you just how drastic this recent backlash has become compared to the state of these properties and what they were only a few years back. So we're going to start off at the moment. We're talking about the Rings of Power Season 2. So there was a recent trailer that dropped for that. Now, as of today, when I took these screenshots, the current dislike to dislike ratio is 94,000 likes to 517,000 dislikes. That's like basically 5 to 1. So for every one like that they get on this video, they're getting 5 dislikes. That is massive. It's not a surprise. If you watch The Rings of Power, you know that it is a terrible show, and you know that's bad enough. But if we go to the season one was even worse, where they had 130,000 likes to 1.9 million dislikes. That is an insane amount. That's like almost 20 to 1 when you're looking at that ratio. 1 like to 20 dislikes. I mean, that's just insane. But we're not going to compare that to anything, because Lord of the Rings obviously came out decades ago and is beloved by all. Like, nothing will ever compare to that. It's pointless looking at the ratios of that one. But I just wanted to get the Rings of Power one out of the way to kind of show you just how, Rings of Power is really the only Lord of the Rings we have gotten in media since the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films. There hasn't been mass media from that franchise, and yet you would have thought people were prepared for something new for that thing, but it was the opposite. People were prepared to destroy this thing, and that's exactly what happened. The next one I want to talk about is another recent trailer, which was The Acolyte. So from one of their main trailers that's released as of today, the like to dislike ratio is 194,000 likes to 708,000 dislikes. So again, that's like not 7 to 1, but almost like that. It's a huge disproportionate dislike ratio. People are looking at what they're seeing in this trailer and they are absolutely hating it, and so they are just going there and disliking. And it's something to be said for the fact that most people cannot even see the dislike amount anymore, the dislike button. So they can click on it, but it doesn't mean anything because you don't get to see it represented anywhere. So the fact that they're still clicking on it means that they're even more pissed off by what they're seeing, because they don't even care about just like adding to a number that's going to be viewed by everyone, because as far as most people are concerned, they can't even see it. So that right there is the backlash. And to give you a really nice comparison to The Acolyte, to show you how bad things are with the state of Star Wars at the moment, let's look at The Rise of Skywalker, which came out in 2019. Now, this obviously came out off the back of the highly divisive The Last Jedi. So there was already a lot of backlash going on at that time for Star Wars, nowhere near like it is now, but still a significant amount. And on top of that, The Rise of Skywalker itself, after the film came out, was not a well-received film, which would have led more people to go back and dislike it. Well, what was the ratio for Rise of Skywalker? 595,000 likes to 86,000 dislikes. Basically 6 to 1. 6 to 1, 6 likes for 1 dislike. That's still not great, but that is very good compared to what these modern trailers are getting. And it shows you just the state of Star Wars compared to 2019, compared to now. We haven't had any movies since Rise of Skywalker. We've only had TV shows, and it's shown that having these TV shows and the quality of them has only led to more and more people disliking and hating current Star Wars. And so that shows you just the state of what that franchise is in. It's in a very bad shape, but that's not where this ends. Let's talk about another property. Let's talk about another thing owned by Disney, and that is, let's go back to last year. Let's talk about the end of last year, The Marvels. So the Brie Larson film, the sequel to Captain Marvel. So that trailer, not as bad a dislike, but still it's ratioed into the dislike column. It's a 293 likes to 380 thousand dislikes. So slightly more, not a huge lopsided, but it is definitely the vast majority in the dislike camp. Let's compare that. People, and that film was terrible. No, it did terribly at the box office. It failed on all fronts, critically and financially, everything like that. But let's talk about its predecessor, the first Captain Marvel film, Captain Marvel. And that trailer had 1.1 million likes to 106,000 dislikes. And so, well, what's the difference? Why did, and that one we know made over $1 billion. Well, the difference is the state of Marvel. Marvel was in arguably the strongest position at any point when Captain Marvel came out. It was wedged right between Infinity War and Endgame. People were consuming anything that Marvel was producing. Well, now after a bad movie, bad TV shows on Disney Plus, all of this stuff, oversaturation, we now have the Marvels, which had obviously led to a overwhelming dislike ratio. So showing you the state of Marvel. Not quite as bad, I don't think, as Star Wars. I still think Marvel does have some more goodwill than Star Wars does because of how much good they had produced prior to basically everything up to Endgame. But since then, it's really fallen off, and it is on that same trajectory as Star Wars, just not as far down yet. But I think it'll get there if it keeps going. Let's talk about another Disney property, and that is their recent release of their trailer, Mufasa. So this is obviously a prequel to the 2019 live action, quotations, Lion King film. So Mufasa, this recent trailer, I didn't think much of the trailer. It wasn't really offensive in any way. It just seemed like the same thing as what we've got in the Lion King, where it's like CGI animals with no expressions, but nothing particularly offensive about it. Well, that has 145,000 likes to 410,000 dislikes. So almost like 4-1. That's crazy. You think about something like The Lion King, such a beloved property, and it's not like, doesn't have this highly divisive, hasn't had a film in its series that's like highly divisive in terms of what happened in it or has turned off fans in any way. No, I mean, even The Lion King in 2019, the live action remake, was massively successful despite the bad reviews. It still made $1.6 billion because that's how much people already loved The Lion King and were just going to eat up anything that they put out. And so they thought with a Mufasa film, people will just eat it up again. Well, I think they're in for a massive shock with this one when this film comes out at the end of the year. I think it's going to do very badly at the box office. But let's compare this one to The Lion King in 2019. 785,000 likes to only 45,000 dislikes. That's kind of similar to the Rise of Skywalker thing. It's not it's not it's not a great one, but it's really, really good and really strong and positive. You could see there the sentiment is overwhelmingly excited for that film that was coming out in 2019, and rightly so. But now that's just completely reversed, and the excitement's no longer there, and people are just not interested in what they're putting out anymore. Want to use one more example? Let's talk about The Little Mermaid, which was last year. This was the biggest one. So I saved the biggest for last, even though it was over a year ago now. This is the biggest for last. 374,000 likes, not bad. 2.9 million dislikes. Essentially 3 million dislikes. So 3 million to 300,000. It's like 10 to 1. 10 to 1. 1 like for every 10 dislikes. It's like, that's, if my maths are correct, that is horrendous. Horrendously bad. Like, and just to give you a comparison of that, what was a recent live action Disney film that was released before this one? Well, we'll go back to 2019 again. A lot of 2019s in this video. But the Aladdin film that came out, and that one, even when the trailers dropped for that, there was a fair amount of backlash. If you remember, particularly with Will Smith's character and how he looked, people were thinking, what the hell is this blue Will Smith? It looks stupid. People were crapping on it and saying it's going to be terrible, this and that. Well, what was the outcome of that trailer? 646,000 likes to 31,000 dislikes. So vastly positive, like overwhelmingly positive for that trailer, and the excitement was there. But that we saw with The Little Mermaid last year, completely the other way. People were just completely turned off by what they were seeing in that trailer. And so what is the overall thoughts here on this? So basically I've used these examples from 2019 to show the state of these franchises and the excitement level that people had for these properties at that time compared to now, basically 5 years later, and how they are all being ratioed to hell. What has happened in that time? Well, we obviously had a pandemic, but outside of that, what has happened in that time? the biggest thing to me is the identity politics. All of these properties have been infected with identity politics, with wokeness and DEI and all of this rubbish, and they've tried to, and people are just turned off by it. They don't want to see it or have anything to do with it anymore. They can see it in these trailers what they're trying to push. They're not trying to push an engaging story or engaging characters. You can see visually with the people they've got on the screen that they are trying to prop up a message of certain diversity and certain people of certain persuasions, because that's all they care about. That's their main focus, not storytelling or characters or anything like that, or production value. It's just all about the message, and that's the goal here. There are other factors in play. I think there is fatigue happening where people are getting sick of the shared universes, the constant sequels and prequels and reboots and all this stuff. People are sensing a lack of creativity, and that is definitely a factor too. But I think it just cannot be understated what identity politics has done to these franchises. It is bringing them all to their knees, where fans are just dismissing them, and it's getting to the point where it's not just anger anymore to be disliking these videos. It's straight up apathy. And for those who don't know what apathy is, that means they no longer care. There's no interest anymore in these franchises, and that's the worst thing that you can have, is to have a fan base that does not care. You would much rather have an angry fan base than to have fans that do not care, that just are completely indifferent. Because an angry fan base is what you get after the Star Wars prequels, or even to a lesser extent, like the Hobbit trilogy. Like, you get angry fans, but they are passionate because they love what's in front of them, but they're seeing the issues and it's annoying them. They know the potential it has, but it's just needs to be tweaked here and there story-wise to get to what they want it to be. But apathy to me sets in when they see that there are things in play with these films that are being made and productions where the main goal is no longer the story, to serve the fans. It is no longer about that. And when it's no longer about that, fans are just not even getting angry about that. They're just saying, oh, well, I'll to be done with it. I'm not going to give it any of my time anymore. If I just see a trailer for it, whether I've properly scrutinized it or not, I'm just going to give it a dislike, a negative review, essentially. So that's my thoughts on this. It's showing you the state of our entertainment. I'm very much fascinated on this topic to see just how far they've all fallen, but it is really remarkable to see, and it's sad at the same time, but it's truly also mind-blowing. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that, guys. I just wanted to kind of put that into perspective for you and just paint a picture of it all for you, so to make it easy for you to understand. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think is going on here? Is there other factors in play that's causing these massive dislikes? Another thing I mentioned before I wrap up is that people kind of seem to claim that, oh, it's just trolls who are just, you're just making their points heard and just like wanting to dislike everything because they hate everything. Now, if that were really the case, where were these trolls in 2019? Why did they only come out of the bushes now? Why were those same trailers in 2019, comparable films of same stories or similar stories and whatnot, why were they not being disliked, but they are now? Where did they come from? And if that's the case, why, if the fan base is truly still as strong as they used to be, why aren't the true fans there to prop up the like ratio? The answer is simple: because they are not liking what they're seeing. The true fans are pissed off, and they've had enough. So I just wanted to get that in there before I forgot. But yeah, that's all I want to say now. Please, guys, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think of all this? I'd love to hear all your thoughts. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.